What are the absolute best Lorcana items and cards to invest in at this moment? Now, however, this video is for entertainment purposes only and absolutely nothing in this video should be considered as investment advice. I would like to share the products and cards that I'm looking at that could turn out to be not only highly sought after amongst collectors, but also a good investment towards the future. Now, in order to do so, it's obvious that Disney Lorcana will need to continue to grow over the next coming years. If Lorcana would eventually turn out to be a failed trading card game, something I absolutely don't expect, but you never know, every single investment that you're going to make could turn out to be a total waste of money. Now, obviously, this really is the worst case scenario, and I absolutely don't expect this to happen, but it is always something that you have to keep in mind when investing in a very high-risk asset like Disney Lorcana and basically any other TCG. Okay, now without further ado, let's start with the list, and the item we really need to start with is the first chapter booster box. Now, especially after Ravensburger announced a new reprint last year in 2025, a lot of people that probably weren't the biggest fan of Lorcana laughed and said that prices of these boxes would always remain low. Now, obviously that's not the case, and something they didn't take into account was the fact that these boxes have changed significantly since the original release. By now we have had a total of 4 releases of this box. The first release was the original one, where the boxes didn't have any kind of seal or security tape. Now, these are the original boxes that came onto the market in the summer of 2023. Now, let me make one thing clear. However, there obviously is a clear risk in buying these boxes because they basically almost don't have any kind of protection. These are and will always be the most sought after boxes from Lorcana because these are the original first booster boxes. Now, the second version of the first chapter that was released later in 2023 actually does have security tape and is to be considered as the next best thing. Now, it is important to note that the first wave of these boxes still had the pre-errata cards in them. It was only from the second wave that some cards received certain changes. As we know from other TCGs, also the so-called pre-errata cards almost always tend to be the most sought after cards, what can be considered as an extra advantage for the first prints of the first chapter booster box. Now, if you are a serious collector of Lorcana, or if you want to invest in an item that has a great chance of becoming an amazing investment, now remember guys, nothing in this video should be considered as investment advice, always do your own research, but then I think that even on today these boxes are still worth looking at. The second one is a tricky one. I mean, buying a first chapter booster box, even the very first print, isn't today still pretty affordable. That's not entirely the case for the second investment on this list, the 2022 D23 Expo first edition promo cards. And yes, that is quite a mouthful. Now, as you might know, these are the very first Disney Lorcana cards released on the market. Also, these cards were only available for 3 days at the D23 event in 2022. Every day there were 300 sets sold and the event lasted 3 days, so this means that there should only be 900 copies of each card on the market. Now, obviously that's a very limited amount. The special promo set consists out of 6 different cards, being Elsa, Snow Queen, Stitch, Rockstar, Maleficent, Monsters Dragon, Robin Hood, Unrivaled Archer, Captain Hook, Forceful Duelist, and Cruella de Vil, Miserable as always. Every card has a unique first edition stamp on them, which is exclusive for these cards only. Now, besides these promo sets, there is also a separately given out Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor card with first edition stamp. Now, instead of what a lot of collectors still seem to think, this card was not a part of the standard sets that were given out on the D23 Expo. This card was indeed handed out separately to visitors at the Lorcana booth. Up until today, it is unclear how many copies of this card there exactly are. Some rumors state there are only a couple of thousands of this card produced, while other sources state that there are well over 10,000 copies. Now, the fact that there is no confirmed print run means you will probably never know the exact population, but obviously the growing popularity and the known scarcity of these cards have led to a pretty hefty premium by now. So if you are able to spend a couple of €1,000 or dollars on a card, then I do believe that the first edition promos could still be a fantastic addition to your collection and could actually turn out to be great investments. These are the very first cards of Disney Lorcana, they are very limited and they are the only ones containing a first edition stamp. So if you are able to spend a lot of money, these cards could absolutely be worth it to take a look at, because I do believe they will always stay top grails for any Disney Lorcana collector. Maybe even a bit similar to the first edition Shadowless cards from Pokemon, like the Charizard, the Blastoise and the Venusaur. As I've mentioned before, obviously these cards did already see a pretty hefty price increase, and the fact that you have to put in a significant greater amount of money obviously makes them also a bit more risky plays, so also definitely keep this in mind if you are planning on buying or investing in these cards. People that know me know that as a collector, I'm a very big fan of cards that can't just be found in normal booster packs. This is one of the reasons why I have big promo card collections from not only Pokemon but also Lorcana and One Piece. Even more so, I like to collect cards that have been handed out as some kind of prize for competing in a tournament or championship. Now, the very first some kind of prize card within the Lorcanatcg is the enchanted version of Rockstar Stitch. Up until today, this is one of my absolute favorite Disney Lorcana cards. It has stunning art, it's pretty rare, and it's the prize card that basically started it all. Now, being completely honest here, as a serious Lorcana collector, I think this should always be a card that you need to have in your collection. Now, what makes this card even more desirable is that Ravensburger chose to change the way how they handed out their prize cards during tournaments and championships. At first, it were only the top 4 players of a Disney Lorcana tournament or championship that would receive some kind of prize card. This was the case with the Rockstar Stitch and with the Ursula Sea Witch Queen cards. But later on, Ravensburger decided that more players should be able to receive such cards, and therefore they started awarding the prize cards to the top 8 players. Now, with this in mind, it's pretty safe to say that the Rockstar Stitch and the Ursula Sea Witch Queen prize cards could turn out to be highly sought after in the future, which could make them a fantastic investment. But besides this, also as a collector, I'm convinced that these are really great cards to have in your collection. I've recently made a video about the newly released Curator's collection, Heroines Edition. Now, this is to be considered the second big real limited edition collection box that Ravensburger brings to the market for Disney Lorcana after the release of the D23 collector set from the year 2024. Now, I always consider these items one of the most interesting ones to look at when I'm planning on investing or adding new items to my collection. Most of the time these boxes have the potential to turn out to be absolute great investments, this not in the least because they most of the time have unique cards inside that can only be found within these boxes. Now, this having said, investing in boxes like this is not always as straightforward as it might seem. The problem with, let's say, the Curator's Collection Heroines Edition is that they are only available at specific locations. Now, if you don't live near those locations, you have to buy them at the secondary market, and that is where the real problem begins. It's extremely hard to determine, especially within a bull market, what a decent price is to buy this box at. Okay, so full transparency here, so far I was able to buy one box for a price of 272 euros from a seller in Belgium. I pulled the trigger for this price because, I have to be honest, I had a little bit of FOMO for this box, because by now we know it will be the very first box of a complete new limited edition collection series, so I do think it's a pretty safe bet, even at the current price point of around 270 to 300 euros here in Europe. But I'm not saying that this box can't drop any more in value, but you know, at this price I felt good adding already one to my collection, and if the price drops further I could definitely see myself buying a couple of extra boxes. Okay, before continuing with the other items and cards from my investment list, I would like to take a little bit of time to give everyone that's watching an important extra piece of advice. And this tip might seem obvious, but I notice that a lot, and I mean a lot of especially new collectors and investors aren't paying as much attention to it as they should. Now, the moment that you buy a certain item and the price that you pay for it will always be for a big part responsible for the amount of risks you take and for the future profit that you can possibly make. Let's take the D23 collection box from 2024 as an example. Now, its MSRP was $100 in the US and 100 euros in Europe. So the price was the same as now with the Heroines collection. But the market conditions were completely different. For the longest time you were able to buy this box for a price of around 150 euros or even less. 1 year ago I actually saw this box changing hands for just over MSRP. Now, buying that box for a price of between 100 and 150 euros almost guaranteed you profit as long as you hold on to the box long enough. Now, also the collection didn't have to realize a lot of growth for the buyer to be able to make a decent return on investment. But the situation on the market today is not the same as the situation was 1 year ago. Within this market, I highly doubt we will see the Heroines collection going for under 200 euros or dollars, and if we do, and the second box from this collection will be announced, I think it will see an almost immediate spike in price. But if the attention for this box fades away or we go into a hefty bear market, the risk for a significant price drop from the price point that I have paid of 272 euros towards its MSRP of 100 euros is a lot bigger than when I should have bought it for a price of, let's say, 150 euros. Now, of course, as a collector and an investor, you don't have a crystal ball, so it's impossible to determine what the most ideal buying point for a specific item really is, but always keep in mind, if a certain item or card already had a decent run, especially when it has reached an all-time high, the risk that you are taking is a lot bigger and the upward potential probably a lot smaller. So whatever item you are planning on buying, always try to determine if it's an interesting time to make this decision or not, how hard that might actually be. Okay, let's continue. It's pretty safe to say that Ravensburger is spitting out new promo cards like crazy. As a promo collector myself, I know very good how hard it is to keep track of all the promos and to constantly be able to add the new releases to your collection. But I have to say, collecting Disney Lorcana promo cards is not only fun to do, it can also turn out to be very rewarding. Because promo cards not rarely turn out to be one of the highest sought after cards within a TCG, and I don't think, well, I'm actually pretty sure that Lorcana isn't an exception. Now, obviously, you have a lot of standard promo cards that are available in pretty large quantities, but there are also a lot of cards that are only available for not only a very limited amount of time, but also only at specific locations. One of the highest sought after promo cards from this moment are the cruise promos. Now, a full cruise promo set at the moment of making this video consists out of a total of 5 cards, and let me assure you guys, they are, especially here in Europe, an absolute pain in the, to get a hold of. Now, all the cards are a part of the Year 3 promo set of Lorcana and can only be obtained by going on one of the Disney cruises. Now, it's also important to understand that the way that these cards can be obtained changed a bit since their initial release. At first, the cards were given out to every cabin on a Disney cruise ship, but by now passengers more and more are only able to receive the card when they complete a collector quest or a so-called quest at sea. Now, I've made a small mistake earlier with saying that there are only 5 cruise cards, because in fact there are 6. Now, the 6th one being the Mickey Mouse True Friend cruise promo. Now, why I would like to mention this card separately is because it was only available on specific Disney Vacation Club cruises, making this card even more rare and sought after by collectors. Now, these cruise promos are just one example of a pretty scarce series of promo cards within the Disney Lorcana TCG. Besides these ones, you also have promo cards here that are a little bit easier to obtain, but also have the potential to turn out to be highly sought after cards in the future. Another example of such cards are the Magical Places promo cards like the Belle Apprentice Inventor and the Mulan Disguised Soldier promos. Now, these cards can only be obtained by visiting a Disney park or sometimes at Disney stores and are only available while supply lasts. Now, in order to determine how big the chance is that a promo card will turn out to be highly sought after and potentially a good investment in the future, there are a couple of things that you have to look at. At first, the popularity of the character will always play its part. Obviously, this is the reason why some of the Mickey Mouse promos belongs to the most valuable promo cards in the hobby. But this is not all. Besides the popularity of the character, you also have to ask yourself how you can obtain a certain card. Do you have to go to a specific location? Do you have to buy or do something? Do you actually have to invest some money to be able to get the card, like the cruise promos? And the last point, being probably even the most important but also the hardest one to exactly know, is how big the print run is on that specific card. Promo cards that are hard to get a hold of will always demand a certain premium and a lot of times turn out to be a more than good investment, especially when they feature very popular characters. Now, in my opinion, also these promos are more than worth your attention. The 5 items and types of cards that I've mentioned in this video are, at least at this moment, my favorite picks when you want to invest in Disney Lorcana. Now, this having said, it's impossible to end this video without also mentioning the other Disney Lorcana booster boxes besides the first chapter. Within every TCG you always have one type of blue chip item, and that are and will always be the booster boxes. Now, how many times a certain box might get reprinted, eventually the print run will end and the price of the boxes will start to go up. Not only do booster boxes most of the time turn out to be a decent investment, besides that they are also always the core or foundation of any TCG collection. Even if you don't collect anything else, when you start to have a decent amount of booster boxes, you will have a very appealing collection full with eye candy that carries a very limited risk, is in most circumstances highly liquid, and should see a significant price increase over time. Sometimes even in the short term for unique sets like the Fabled set. Now this brings me to the end of this video. As always, if you enjoyed the video and you found value in it, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. That will help me to grow, and I would of course always appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye bye.